On today's Hot Sheet, I'm discussing President Trump's cost of living plan enacted last night, Logan Mohtashami's housing market tracker, where we cover inventory for the week, the NAHB Homebuilder survey, and housing starts for December. Today is Tuesday, January 21st, 2024. I am Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. All right. Good morning and welcome into the Hot Sheet. Let me know in the live chat which market you are tuning in from today. So pleasure to be with all of you guys after the holiday yesterday. We are back. Hot Sheet is the only show on the internet that covers housing in a 24-hour window, Monday through Thursday, when the markets are open. Of course, the markets closed yesterday with the holiday. All right, we've got a whole bunch here to catch up on because we are starting the week here on a Tuesday. It's inventory day, where we track the inventory issues across the country, update those. We are now, into, the second half of January. So we're starting to look for some of those inventory declines, those winter declines to normalize. Okay, we want a stabilization of active inventory, so that at a normal point in the spring, doesn't happen now, but February would be great. Typically March or April might be more likely. We start to see that inventory move up. But first, let's cover some of the 47th President Trump's executive orders. He was busy. If I was him, I'd probably be icing my wrist today with all of the signatures that he used on those executive orders yesterday. Very busy. Only one of those executive orders, though, had to do with what we care about here. I know we care about other issues, but this show is going to focus in on housing. Okay. So only one of those executive orders really zeroed in and double clicked on the housing market. Okay. And so we're going to cover that. In his speeches, he had, I don't know how many speeches, it seemed like multiple speeches. In his speech at the inauguration, we did not have, I know that was a shorter Trump speech. I think it was about a half an hour. We did not have any housing mentions, right? Like, we're always watching for Jerome Powell. Does this guy care about housing? President Trump didn't get into housing during the inauguration speech. He did have a mention or two about it at his more rally-like speech later on. There wasn't really anything to cover there, but let's cover the executive order. Haley, if you can play the clip, and then I'll break down the executive order, which is directly coming from whitehouse.gov. So it is what they're saying, this order, and go ahead and play that order that President Trump is signing here.
Next, we have a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living crisis that has cost Americans so dearly.
So getting cheers from the crowd, cost of living crisis. So what is the cost of living crisis? And look at that. I mean, he kept signing all day. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to do that many signatures. It might mess up the golf swing. If you've got a sore wrist like that. But a lot of signatures and a lot of, interesting names. I mean, this is an interesting name, the cost of living crisis. What's in there? How does that impact housing? Is there going to be, any benefits for the housing industry and the housing market in particular? So here's right from whitehouse.gov, which now obviously Trump has full control of what's going on. This .gov site, delivering emergency price relief for American families and defeating the cost of living crisis. Okay, how and what? I'm going to skip past the first two paragraphs. I've already read them. They're kind of a victory lap for Trump versus his, versus the political left there. And so no need to rehash what's worked and what hasn't worked in the past. Let's go to paragraph 3. Many Americans are unable to purchase homes due to historically high prices. Okay. The prices are less of a concern for me. I think I would have used the word due to historic affordability issues. It's really, I know these are a historically normal interest rate, so don't come at me for the interest rate, but it's really the rate with the prices attached to it that are making the inability for home purchases, greater for a lot of Americans. And it's obviously on a year to year basis right now, it's more affordable to rent. You play that out long term, might not be the best plan if somebody's staying in the same area, all of that. Okay. Now they're saying these historically high prices on homes are in part due to regulatory requirements that alone account for 25% of the cost of constructing a new home, according to a recent analysis. This is the most consequential sentence in the whole entire press release. Okay. So the regulations that are put on the housing industry, the cost of construction, and there's a variety of different forms of regulation that are being put onto builders. A form of permitting is something that's going to be, I think Laura's talking about construction regulation done by state or local. Like permitting is going to be one of those local regulations. It's a huge conversation of topic right now in the greater LA area, where you've had multiple. We played a clip on Knowledge Brokers this past week with Lance Lambert, where he was breaking down some of the insurance stuff that's probably going to take shape in California moving forward. But we played a clip of one of the architects, one of the Malibu architects who's been in business in decades, saying it'll take me longer to get a permit than it does for the builders to come in and build the house. So, those local issues, I don't know how necessarily the federal government, changes that. But we do have a lot of different levels of regulation. I've been saying this for years, that come down on builders, and it is unnecessarily increasing the cost of constructing a new home. According to, this release, this executive order, the White House is in the new administration in the White House is claiming 25%, and they're citing recent analysis. Okay, so I'm with that. I'm definitely with less regulation on builders. I want to incentivize a lot of building. If you do want to bring down, home purchases, home prices, you're going to need a whole heck of a lot more inventory than you have today. How do you get there? How do you get there with affordable inventory? You got to remove some of the unnecessary costs. And it's not just the cost. If you're waiting, and again, this is a local regulation, the permit. If you're waiting 2 years for a permit, well, I mean, your carrying costs on the land start to build up, and all of that. Okay, so this is how they summarize this: the regulatory oppression from the federal government, and in the last 4 years, in particular, the Biden administration, have imposed almost $50,000 in costs on the average American household. Going back to Trump's first term, he's making a claim here that they reduced regulatory costs by $11,000 per household. Now, these regulatory costs that are being cited here are not just housing regulatory costs. It's one of the regulations that Trump's lifted last night is, and he did say this in the 30-minute speech, right? The inauguration speech. I think he said the words "drill, baby, drill." Like they're going to unleash more drilling and more energy creation in the U.S. That's a plan that was promised on the campaign trail, and a plan that on day one clearly they're following through. And those regulations through energy costs is kind of how you're going to get to some of those numbers, amongst other things. Goes on to say, excuse me, that this is going to include, like, okay, what else is this going to include? Okay, he's ordering all heads of executive departments and agencies to deliver this emergency price relief. This is going to include lower the cost of housing and expand housing supply. I'd love a double click on that part of it outside of, the regulations that were announced on up top there. I'd love a double click into that. Eliminate unnecessary administrative expenses and rent seeking practices that increase healthcare costs. Eliminate counterproductive requirements that raise the cost of home appliances. This one might save a couple bucks, but this is like talking about, you're not allowed to have a gas stove after X year, which sounds kind of dumb saying it, right? But that's, what is that going to, maybe it saves somebody having to switch out their stove. You get the electrician, you get a new, so I don't know. I don't know if that's going to move the needle economically, but it's something in there. Create employment opportunities for American workers. Okay, so tying like the employment opportunities to this cost of living crisis, that, if there's more employment opportunities, theoretically, there's more money in the economy. Okay. Include drawing discouraged workers into the labor force and eliminate harmful climate policies that increase the cost of food and fuel. This is the biggest impact that the administration can have. He goes on to say, or the executive order rather goes on to say, that the assistant to the president for economic policy is going to report to the president every 30 days on the status of this executive order. So it's kind of like now, kind of like a monthly mastermind, I guess. Hey, how's things going? Is this working? Okay. So the biggest impact I think the federal government can have, and I've heard this, what I'm actually glad is not in here is any talk of immigration, because I don't think that has that great of an impact at all on the prices of homes. Maybe you can argue in certain locations that illegal immigration can have an impact on some rental prices in some areas. I'm glad they didn't go there in this executive order, because I don't believe it's making that much of an impact on home prices. But the only, and they've, I've heard, the now new administration say that as one of the big, needle movers on housing. What they also reference is these regulations. If you do bring energy costs down and just, overall cost of things down, that is going to help, especially if you get to the rates, that would all help. But that's the plan there. And so we'll obviously track that moving forward, see how those monthly meetings, of course, if they end up bringing any thing to fruition there on housing in particular. We'll be looking for more on that. But that was it on the inauguration stuff and the first day of executive orders. Now let's get into actual inventory of what's actually going on here in the U.S. housing market, and the weekly inventory change over the last 7 days ending January the 17th. We went up. This is incredible. Okay. This is a 624,000 to 632,000 on inventory rise. That's a 8,000 increase on active inventory across the country. If you just go back to like 2020, we can take 2020 in January's numbers, because 2020 was leading into a strong real estate market. Obviously March, everything kind of changed. It changed the dynamics of being able to track it and call it a more normal market. But if you look at January, we had that decrease in the beginning of January from 763,000, down to 737 in the first week. And January kind of leveled off, just staying in the 730,000 range. We had a decrease, but not, not as significant in that first week. The holiday was kind of happened differently this year, obviously. But you go from 650 to 635. Then we did have a drop to 624. So we get a 25,000, drop. That is similar to 2020. And now we get this actual increase. We never had an increase. We kind of had a steady decline, flat, but not steady, a flat and slight decline in January of 2020 before we started to see, inventory move up in March. Maybe a better year to look at would be 2019, where you really stay flat January and February before you start to see that natural spring increase on inventory happen in March. This is 1 week. It's not everything, but it is something. The low point in the spring of 2020 before COVID had changed everything of inventory was in March at 720,000. Right now we're at 632,000. Like, I get it. It's still over 100,000 away, but this is a lot different situation than we were just this time last year when we had only 506,000. We're at 25% more active homes at this point right now than we were last year. In terms of inventory, the future is looking bright, and we'll continue obviously to track this. We get double weeks of 8,000 increases. It's a little bit of a surprise to me to get 8,000 in this week. Slow start to the year in terms of inventory because holiday kind of pushed back middle of the week, lost a half a week to start the year. So maybe we're making up for some of that, but good signs there for inventory. New listings on single family homes for the past week came in at 45,800. Now we're starting to get into like more, we're now finally getting into weeks outside of the holiday where you can actually look at them from last year to this year, how the 2 weeks perform against each other. So 45,800, it's an increase from 44,200 the year before, but nothing substantial. We know we're coming off two of the lowest years of all time. 23 was the lowest new listing year ever, and 24 was tied, or was second place, not tied, but almost tied, was in second place. So we're coming off the two lowest years of new single family listings, not new construction, but just new listings in national single family tracking. We're above both of those years, but it's not a huge increase, but it is something. We'll take that momentum. We'll hopefully grow moving forward here into the spring market on those numbers. Price cuts for the last week are higher than the same time last year. So 33.5% on this past week's price cuts. That's more than 31% last year. So the sellers who have been not accustomed to days on market increasing, as you're seeing in parts of the country, making adjustments on price. It also tells me that, hey, a lot of the sellers on the market, aren't just that. If they're choosing to go onto the market right now, they're a serious seller. They're not just, seeing which way the wind's blowing. They're out there looking for a deal, especially that, third of homeowners, and that's a customary number, about a third of homeowners that are dropping the price. They're serious when they're dropping the price. Now, pending sales has been fluctuating. We've been up certainly in December versus last year. I mean, look at how much in the fourth quarter we were up on pending sales versus 2023's fourth quarter. Well, now we're starting the year 2%, into the third week here, 2% less on single family homes in contract than last year. That's an interesting one to cover because, and continue to follow, because the last 2 years, starting right now, we have a sharp line increase on pending home sales that accelerates for the better part of 3+ months, up and to the right on total pending home sales for the better part of 3 months. So, I mean, this line right here on total home sale contracts pending in escrows, whatever you call it in your market, if we're going to follow the last 2 years and we're going to follow historic trends, this line right here goes from 257,000 and screams up to 400,000. If we're going to have a better year than the last couple of years, it shoots past 400,000 in May and June. Okay. So we're looking for a rapid increase, not this like little, candy cane that lost the tip, not this L shape here. We're looking more for a V shape that goes straight up and to the right on pending home sales, if we're going to be more like what we would expect in a spring market. The pressure on that, obviously, continues to be the rates. And we'll be tracking, mortgage applications, how many buyers are pulling applications despite where rates are. And we're seeing right now, so far to start the year, that's a smaller number. Okay. This is where you should get these next couple weeks. The next couple weeks are super important on mortgage applications. This is where you should get the highest, points on the graph for mortgage applications, where buyers are like, okay, I'm past the first couple weeks of the new year. Holidays are fully behind. I'm like focused on my new year of what I'm going to accomplish, and I'm going to go, pull that mortgage application. You get more this time of year than any other time of the year. So how much pressure is this current rate environment going to provide downward pressure on, how many people are actually going to pull those rates? If we, if anything might come out of these last couple days for you as a positive, in terms of rates, we're actually seeing a downward movement on the 10-year. We had those good inflation reports last week, CPI, PPI. We had a little bit of an increase on unemployment at the end of the week on, for the weekly number. And here in the last 5 days, we've had a real, since that point now, we've had a real decline on the 10-year treasury. So could potentially, we didn't get a read, excuse me, on the 30-year fixed yesterday with the Martin Luther King holiday. We'll get a read today. Last week we came in on the 30-year fixed, or ended the week rather, at 7.08 to end the week. We got as high as 7.26. We might have a chance to get down to 6.99 today with this, with where the 10-year is trending, 7.04 on the weekly number for interest rates. So, we've been comfortably sitting above 7% for some time now, and 10-year at 4.5. Haven't seen that in a few weeks. So maybe we'll get back into the high sixes, that mental barrier of, 6 something Walmart pricing, 6.99 versus 7 might unlock some more of that mortgage application activity that we're looking for this week. We'll obviously have an update as early as either tomorrow or Thursday, obviously, on that, as we do every single week. We've got a national home builder. Actually, you know what? Let's get into this. We've got the National Home Builder survey that's out. By the way, you can grab all the relevant data. We sift through the bullshit for you. So anything that you need on the stuff that we're talking about here on the hot sheet for your interactions with your database, with your email communication, with your text communication, or shows that you're putting on for your local market and you want to tie it into the macro, grab the hot sheet, show notes, all the charts that we use available for you inside of BAMX, the hot sheet, show notes, and the charts. Download them in BAMX. Save time on your communications on delivering this type of high-level statistics for your clients and database. Go to BAMX and use code HOTSHEET, or code HOT, rather, code HOT, to get your discount here today. All right, so here's some of the survey numbers here on builders. So we've got a 15.8% increase in overall housing starts. I'm sorry, we're in housing starts. That's not where I want to be. Actually, I'm sorry, there it is. All right. 15.8% overall housing starts for December, reaching 1.5 million units. It's the highest rate since February of last year. Single family starts rose 6.5% in 24 to 1.01 million. And the confidence for builders in January is measured at 47. Okay. That measurement there at 47, it reflects the ongoing challenges in affordability and the elevated interest rates, even though builders national level probably have, the best hedge against those rates by being able to reduce that rate down or offer concessions to buyers to make the deal work. But they're dealing right now, builders are dealing with a month of supply issue, and that's where you see that confidence score of 47 being dramatically lower than where they were during, just only, a few years ago. Overall housing starts again coming in at 1.5 seasonally adjusted. Again, that's the highest. So they're starting new construction homes right now. The housing starts in the Northeast are up 9+%, where the inventory is the lowest. The Midwest, they're flat. The South, they're down 5.2%, and the West down 7.7%. Building permits, just talked about that in the first segment, decreased 0.7%. So while housing starts are up, building permits down a tick to 1.48 million. Single family permits increased 1.6%, but down 2.5% compared to the end of 2023. If we look at regional permitting, Northeast is up 1.5%, Midwest is up 3.5%, the South's down over 3%, and the West is down 6.6%. And this reading of 47 on the index, how they're feeling about this market, builders being under 50 would mean that they don't have a lot of confidence right now. It's up a point from December. On current sale conditions coming into this early part of the spring, they're 51, so they're more positive there. But look at this. If you're getting good traffic on your listings right now, you're doing something, you're really doing something of value for your client, because a builder's how they feel about traffic, they're at a 33. They hate the traffic they're getting right now, generally speaking. Couple reasons I see for that. Most of the national builders have flocked to these areas where everybody else wanted to build, Austin, Southwest Florida. And so there's a lot more inventory in those areas. So there's going to be less traffic to go around. The second thing is builders, because of some of those regulations we talked about, and that the new Trump administration is going to try to address potentially in their executive order, partly because of that, but also partly because they can make a lot more money selling higher price points. And you were seeing in COVID, people were buying expensive homes. Everybody now wants to build above the median price point, it seems, in most markets. And I get it. It's very difficult for builders to build a median price home or a lower price home. But I think that reduces traffic too now when you have a lot of above median price new construction homes that are on the market. Sales expectations for the next 6 months, that's their most bullish, is 60. So they're feeling fine about the next 6 months. It is down 6 points. 30% of builders cut prices in January. That's a little bit less than existing home sale sellers, which we saw was just over a third there. Average price reduction is 5%. 61% of builders used sales incentives. So that's where how the builders are feeling right now. And just to double click into the housing or the new construction stats that were just released on permits, you had 1.483 million. Again, housing starts 1.5, and completions coming in at 1.544. So completions down, permits are basically flat. And then housing starts actually way up. Okay. So overall housing starts way up. What was the number here on housing starts? It's a 15.8% above the November. If you look in month over month, the housing starts are way up versus November. Again, still 4% below the December 2023 level. So big jump on starts month over month, still a decline when you look at year over year. And permits was actually below November's level. It's below on the year over year number. So slightly down there. Taking just a look at total starts versus single family. Again, just over 1 million of the 1.5 million starts are single versus multifamily currently. as of this December report. Still a lot of cash in the market happening right now. We know that last year, 4 out of 10, 4 out of 10 were cash. 4 out of 10 homeowners right now are own their home without a mortgage. And here are the top 10 housing markets for cash offers as of the first or the 10th in January. So week ending 1/10, you got Vegas at the top. Ben at the top. Vegas is going to continue to probably be, at the top of the list for a lot of investing. I want to make sure this is the right one here real quick. Let me make sure. Yeah, that is. Okay, that's the right one. So Vegas coming in. This is from our friends over at Zudelio, Marietta, Georgia, Jacksonville, Palm Springs, Phoenix, top 5, Houston, Henderson, LA, Tampa, and then Atlanta make your top 10 for top 10 housing markets with cash offers. Zudelio obviously helping agents across the country by partnering with them create cash offers for their sellers. So instead of going to a listing appointment empty-handed, why not bring 4 offers with you? You can do that with Zudelio. Hey, here's 4 offers. I've already gotten to work on you. Every seller wants an offer. They don't want to know about, what photographer you use. They want to sell the house. So bring 4 offers with you. Zudelio allows you to do that. And then you can talk about the 5th option, which is your go-to-market strategy and how you can increase the number on those 4 offers. It eliminates the thought of them talking to another iBuyer to compete with you because you're bringing them 5 options instead of 1 at your listing appointment. Every single BAMX member gets absolutely a free account with Zudelio so that you can generate those offers this afternoon if you have an appointment. Okay, so another reason to sign up for BAMX is we're giving you free tools like Zudelio, which, by the way, cost even more on a monthly basis than our BAMX platform. So use code HOT to get the value out of BAMX that thousands of agents are getting today. Link down below to sign up. Get access to, obviously, Zudelio as part of that experience. Also, tomorrow, 3 p.m., the new way to get more listings in 2025, a webinar with myself. I have a couple of special guests. One who's a broker owner, independent broker owner down in what I'll just say the South. This is somebody who's the number one team and broker in his, from an independent level in his state. Does it through generating listing after listing after listing. I'm also going to have with me on the webinar somebody who's got more data than maybe anybody else on the planet, somebody from a company that starts with Z, how we're going to tie in what is happening right now for so many agents that are driving a lot of listing appointments, how they're convincing customers to sign with them over other offers that they're getting from other agents. Make sure that you sign up for that webinar tomorrow, 3 o'clock, completely free, the new way to get listings in 2025. I will be there with you guys all tomorrow. And of course, BAM Pro Bowl coming up on February 5th. There will be a cutoff point on BAM Pro Bowl. Do not wait on that. BAMProBowl.com if you want to sign up for the Pro Bowl. We've got a couple, I think, special announcements coming there as well to make that even better. All right, there you go. There's your hot sheet for the day. Hope everybody has a great day out there, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Later on the main channel, we'll also have the Real Word Pod. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification down below. That's completely free, and I'll see you guys later on the channel. Till then, of course, toodaloo.